Test, test, test. Hello, hello, hello.
Okay, perfect.
Eileen, you want your show up?
From 7 News, on your side, this is a local news update.
Good morning, I'm Melanie Hastings.
And I'm Madonna Hopkins. 7 News is your back.
Good morning, welcome to National Weather Desk. Tracking the tropics this morning, the National Hurricane Center is watching 3 systems in the Atlantic that could develop into tropical storms. First in the Gulf of Mexico. Is this better? Right now, the National Weather Desk, shifting heat. The brutal heat baking the Northwest will soon be heading east.
Many areas in the eastern half of the U.S. likely to be above average.
Tracking the tropics. 3 areas in the Atlantic to watch, plus a storm passing south of Hawaii. Could it impact recovery efforts? Dry Texas. The drought leads to new water restrictions in some communities.
We have enough water, but we don't have enough water to waste.
Spotted lanternfly. The extraordinary steps some are taking to eliminate the invasive species.
If we didn't do any spraying, we'd have a larger population to deal with this year.
Plus, a closer look at the air you breathe and the efforts to keep it clean.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. So many of us are still dealing with sweltering heat, but as we get closer to the weekend, those high temps will be shifting. The Pacific Northwest will soon get a break, sort of, but other areas are heating up, closing in on triple-digit temperatures. Meteorologist Ryan Miranda looks at where the heat is headed and what's behind this never-ending heat wave.
It has been a very hot summer and year for many areas over the United States, and that heat really isn't going to be letting up. The Climate Prediction Center has placed next week many areas in the eastern half of the U.S. likely to be above average, especially that area down near the Gulf states. However, we're not going to have a lot of relief in form of rain. Also, the eastern half of the U.S. looks likely to be drier than average, so maybe the humidity also next week won't be as unbearable. But now that we're midway through August, the July stats have come in, and NOAA has said we've had the hottest July in 174 years of record keeping. Earth's temperature was running about 2 degrees above the average over the whole entire globe. But not only was the land very hot, the ocean has been incredibly warm. We've now had the 4th consecutive month of record sea surface temperatures. This could be part thanks to our El Nino, that area of very extreme warm water off the equatorial Pacific. And that really works like a heater, especially for the ocean temperatures. But this is also melting a lot of the ice over the North and the South Pole. Right now, over the Antarctic, even during their winter months, their ice extent is down about 1 million square miles below the average. That's about the same size as a quarter of the United States.
And tracking the tropics this morning, the National Hurricane Center is watching 3 systems in the Atlantic that could develop into tropical storms. First, in the Gulf of Mexico, an area of low pressure could develop early next week. The other 2 systems are off the west coast of Africa. Both have low chances of developing, but bear watching over the next few days. The Pacific is also busy with 2 named storms and 2 other areas of concern. Tropical Storm Greg should pass south of Hawaii just as Dora did last week. It should stay offshore, but could complicate search and recovery efforts. The death toll in Hawaii now stands at 106, but that number is expected to keep climbing as crews with cadaver dogs search more areas. Thousands are still without power, and cell service is very poor. One reason the fire spread simply so quickly: flash drought. It was so hot, the moisture was sucked out of the air, quickly drying out vegetation.
We're talking a lot of scrub. We're talking other smaller vegetation, but remember, it's all been dried down because of the wind and the drought. But then this became an urban fire. This burned right into homes.
And the AP is reporting more than a quarter of Hawaii is covered with dry, invasive grass. In Japan, Typhoon Lan prompted the evacuation of more than 200,000 people. The storm slammed the western part of the country on Tuesday with winds near 100 miles per hour. Rainfall over a few hours surpassed the average for the entire month of August in 2 towns. At least 26 people have been hurt. And now this new video out of India, where more than 60 people have been killed by heavy rain and flooding. The storm started on Saturday, mostly in the northern part of the country. The heavy rains caused several landslides. National disaster response teams are helping with the cleanup and also the recovery. Right now, the country is in the middle of monsoon season. Meanwhile, the cleanup continues in southeastern Tennessee after up to 7 inches of rain fell Monday night. The entire town of Tellico Plain was hit with some form of flooding. The water treatment plant there is damaged. No word on when it will actually be back online. And the intense summer heat is creating another challenge: increased algae levels in Florida waterways. Some local water managers may have found a solution, though. Hydrogen peroxide seems to be working in a concentrated patch of areas, but experts say it's not a long-term fix. Dylan Huberman explains.
Experts believe they may have found a short-term solution to the high toxicity levels in the water coming from Lake Okeechobee.
It's a good, effective treatment for not only the algae itself or the cyanobacteria, but also the toxins. It reduces the toxin level.
They're using hydrogen peroxide to help treat blue-green algae in the C-44 canal.
Microcystin, the toxin that we're concerned about with cyanobacteria, doesn't persist very long. After a couple of days, it gets down to a pretty safe level. So we're very encouraged.
Last week, tests on the water around Indiantown's Timer Powers Park boat ramp showed the water was 100 times more toxic than the Environmental Protection Agency's threshold. Since the South Florida Water Management District began treating the water, results this week are well below the toxic threshold. And good news, the hydrogen peroxide doesn't appear harmful to life in the water.
It's done in aquariums and pools and things like that. So it's something new for natural water, and it really only affects the things that are on the surface.
While the early results are hard to argue with, experts say this doesn't seem to be something they can do throughout the lake.
I'm encouraged by it, but I just don't think it could be used on a broad, wide basis.
Experts say this treatment is more for emergencies to stop the algae from reaching estuaries.
If you were to apply it at the quantities you would have to treat the whole lake, there would be unintended consequences biologically.
What remains top of mind is addressing the problem causing algae blooms in the first place.
We all need to stay focused on resolving the problem, and this is a convenient method of treating the symptom. We don't want to become dependent upon it.
The heat and lack of rain in Austin is also causing a drought, forcing officials to implement water restrictions. That means immediate changes to lawn and car care, which both take a whole lot of water. Paige Hubbard heard from some homeowners who hope things will return to normal soon.
The grass we, paid for, we can't water it. So, for them to say something like that, come on.
Austinite Thomas Paul isn't holding back his feelings about not being able to water his new grass or wash his car on his own terms due to new water restrictions. As lake levels continue to fall below an adequate threshold, some of the city's restrictions include limiting automatic irrigation and hose-end watering to 1 day per week and requiring home car washes to use automatic shutoff valves or buckets. Sprinkler system run times will also be shortened by 3 hours with a 5 a.m. cutoff time instead of 8.
I'm not happy with it.
Paul believes the restrictions will end up costing homeowners more money in the long run because he says he now has to spend money on car washes and isn't able to maintain the grass he just bought.
The last time the lakes were at this level was about 10 years ago.
Due to the low water reservoir, the Lower Colorado River Authority says they're also asking customers to reduce their water consumption by 10 to 20% on top of mandatory conservation measures.
And one of the things we're trying to stress with people is while our supplies are stressed, we have enough water, but we don't have enough water to waste.
Another homeowner we spoke with says it's a tough situation because she needs to water replanted trees damaged by recent winter storms, but she's going to play her part to prevent any hazards.
I know we need to conserve because, things are catching on fire. We've got to make sure we have water to put out any fires, but I don't know. There has to be a happy medium. So we're just going to water on our days and keep our fingers crossed that we can keep it alive for a little while.
In other areas, there is better water news. Federal officials plan to ease water restrictions on the Colorado River for 2024. The move comes after above-average winter precipitation and snowpack helped to shore up plummeting water levels at the nation's two largest reservoirs. This means that billions of gallons of Colorado River water can be supplied to Arizona, Nevada, and also Mexico. President Biden stepped off Air Force One at Joint Base Andrews during an absolute downpour. You can see it there. He wasn't holding an umbrella, but you can clearly see the heavy rain pounding the tarmac. But check this out right here. Just 10 miles away in the same county, a rainbow appeared on the other side of the storm. It's a nice contrast showing how just a few miles can really make all the difference when it comes to the weather. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, NASA and NOAA are conducting a massive air quality research campaign this summer. We'll talk with an expert about some of their findings. And the invasive spotted lanternfly is continuing to spread in parts of the country. We'll show you how to spot them and what to do if you find one.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. Today will be another day with a wide range in temperatures in the Northeast due to cloud cover. Notice some more clouds in New England. Their temps will be in the 70s. 80s are expected in New York and New Jersey. More on the way. Some sunshine should be expected there. Now, a very similar setup should be expected Thursday. Clouds through parts of New England. We're brighter the farther west you go. Temps will be in the low 80s there. That front means business on Friday. That could bring some strong to severe thunderstorms to end out the work week.
I'm meteorologist Jasmine Lomax with a look at the mid-Atlantic region. Some areas wake up to clouds this morning, but many starting off nice and dry following a front moving across the region. Then into the afternoon, still looking at plenty of sunshine around much of the region. We'll stay mostly dry as high pressure begins to build over the region. This afternoon, temperatures reach the 70s and the 80s. Then overnight, temperatures mainly fall to the 60s and to the 70s.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast. Highs for the day: about 81 in Nashville, 87 Atlanta, Mobile about 93, 94 Jacksonville, 91 Tampa, West Palm 92. Plenty of sunshine for much of the southeast starting the day off, but as we go through the day, we'll get a little more shower and thunderstorm activity along a frontal boundary, kind of skirting along the coast through the Carolinas and parts of Florida. Looks like up in Alabama, Memphis, and Nashville, you're looking at sunny skies, but along the I-95 corridor, expect some showers.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
This EF0 tornado was caught on camera Monday in Franklin County, Indiana. EF0s are considered weak tornadoes with winds between 65 and 85 miles per hour. They're strong enough to uproot trees, damage roofs, and siding on homes. And this fog bow was captured in Michigan. These form much like rainbows but appear white or with weaker colors because fog droplets are a lot smaller than those that make rainbows.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
NOAA, NASA, and several other agencies are spearheading a massive air quality research campaign this summer. Emily Gracie spoke to one of the research scientists about how they study air quality and what the trend has been in the past decade.
If you want to study the air, the best way to do it is to fly through it. So we pack a lot of instrumentation on a research aircraft, replace the windows on the aircraft to have inlets where we can suck in the air into the aircraft, into our instruments, and analyze them while we're flying.
So tell me about the cities that you're studying. Are you flying all over the U.S. or just focus on big cities? Where are the trouble spots?
Yeah, we are focusing on the big cities. So over the past decades, air quality has been improving, and especially in the big cities, except that it's really flattened out over the past 10 years. So we found recently over the last few years that now that cars are so clean, there's other players involved. So everything that you use in your daily life, your personal care products, the cleaning products, cooking emissions, these products are made to evaporate. So the amount of products that we use is much, much smaller than the amount of gasoline, but since everything evaporates, those make actually a large difference.
What are the dangers to having poor air quality for long periods of time?
There's still about 100,000 to 200,000 premature deaths due to poor air quality in the US alone every year. This is much higher than any natural disaster like fires, storms or so. But I think that's the underlying motivation for any air quality study.
Do you get to go on the plane yourself?
Yes. It's actually a pretty rough flying because you fly very low over a city, so it's very bumpy and it's very hot in the plane. So we're flying up and down the Hudson River at 2,500 feet altitude, so right next to the skyscrapers. So that's pretty spectacular.
Is it going to be alarming to people in New York to see airplanes flying that low?
Yeah, but there's a lot of social media attention, especially Chicago. We flew very low. New York, it's all over social media.
And another contributing factor to poor air quality is wildfires. And medical experts are warning that smoke from fires can be very dangerous. Andrew Freeman explains the dangers and why it's so important to keep wildfire smoke out of your lungs.
When a fire broke out off West Palmer Lane in Cedar Park earlier this week.
Oh, it's scary. Look at the fumes, man.
The smoke could be seen from Highway 183.
I just see this giant mushroom of a cloud just up in the air.
And with the number of large wildfires seen recently, medical experts are warning the public to be alert.
it's good to be cautious. It's always like in medicine, prevention is the best remedy.
The smoke carries irritating particles, some as small as 1/70th the size of a human strand of hair, which can even be carried in the wind to neighboring counties.
It causes a lot of inflammation in the lungs. It causes oxidative stress, and it increases the risk of wheezing, coughing.
Dr. Pushan Jani with UT Health Austin and Memorial Hermann recommends getting as far from the smoke as possible.
If that is not feasible, then staying indoors and making sure that you are wearing a mask, you are not getting exposed to the outdoor environment.
Though air quality levels aren't currently worth panicking over, both experts agree it's important to remain vigilant, especially if you have other health risks like asthma or COPD.
And I think if you have respiratory problems and you notice that, or you hear about the air quality not being good, try to avoid being outside, at least for the next few days until things clear up.
The hunt for the invasive spotted lanternfly continues. It's becoming public enemy #1 in the world of flying insects. Rhode Island is working to stop the pest from ruining vineyards, crops, and more. Kel Domowski explains how.
The red nymphs are the ones that are more common right now.
A familiar foe is back. NBC 10 getting an up-close look at the spotted lanternflies at Lincoln Woods State Park today. The invasive insect is new to the park this year, and many of the ones we saw are just nymphs right now. But DEM says the bugs are popping up in similar places to where they were just last year.
So we've been able to kind of get ahead of it this year.
The pesky pests have been known to wreak havoc on crops, farms, and vineyards.
In Pennsylvania, where they've had the infestation the longest, some of their vineyards have seen up to 85% yield loss. They are like sap feeders, so they feed on the vines of grapes and on stems and trunks of trees.
DEM expert Cynthia Kwolek explains that the spotted lanternflies love and need this tree, the also invasive tree of heaven, in order to complete their life cycle. That's why, in addition to a direct pesticide this year, DEM's also using dinotefuran.
The dinotefuran is an injected pesticide that is being taken up within the tree, and then anything that feeds on it will die.
Spraying last summer proved to be effective. As Kwolek notes, the department saw a decrease in egg masses being laid, and there were no signs of impact at local vineyards.
I think if we didn't do any spraying, we'd have a larger population to deal with this year.
DEM's also got some federal help this time around. The agency and the USDA will spray about a dozen areas this season, including the state park, Route 146, Route 7, as well as other spots where the flies are. And while the spray is one way to get rid of the bugs, DEM says simply,
kill them.
It's been 1 year since homes and businesses along Campbell Creek in Charleston, West Virginia, were devastated by flooding, and local residents say the road to recovery is still long, bumpy, and far from over. Anna Saunders shares their story.
We got tired of seeing the watermark. It was like bringing back bad memories, so we wanted to cover it up.
When Jessica Hudson and her mom Rhonda think back to a year ago living along Campbell's Creek, they remember going to sleep on this day and then waking up at about 4 a.m. to chaos.
You couldn't see nothing but water. And then a few minutes later, it started coming in our house through the house vents. And we just had to hurry up and get out of here quick.
In Fayette County, Smithers was also hard hit, as Smithers lost $14 million worth of sewer line and about $635,000 worth of city property.
That means none of these homeowners received any sort of assistance. And I think they should be applauded for all that they've done this year to get themselves back to where they were before the flood.
And that's what's been happening in the Hudson home, as Jessica and Rhonda are still looking at fixing 3 rooms, including a hot water heater that's been leaning on a soft spot of flooring since the flood. But Rhonda says it's hard to put all of this work in, living in a floodplain.
And we're putting all this money, little bit of money that we have into it, and it's going to might start again. And that's what we're worried about. It's on our minds all the time.
And before we take a short break, let's take flight over Weaver Lake in the Sequoia National Forest.
Good morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Sarah Converse. A high pressure system building over Missouri is bringing in plenty of sunshine for parts of the Midwest. But you'll notice to the front half of that high pressure system, we got those cooler temperatures in the upper 70s and low 80s, but warmer temperatures to the back half of that high pressure system where temperatures are in the 90s, like in Lincoln. And then for tonight, overall dry, except for Wisconsin, as they deal with that cold front that's going to be sliding in through the area.
Good Wednesday morning to you. Meteorologist Chris Suchan. Look at our forecast across the region today, and actually starting off with some somewhat cooler temperatures, lower humidity for at least the northern half of the region. And the afternoon, a lot of sunshine, highs from 82 in Little Rock. That is nice. 95 Dallas, 103 Austin. Might get a pop-up or two in the southern part of Texas through the day. And then Thursday's forecast starts off with a lot of sunshine. A hotter day Thursday. Look at those highs, up around 107 Thursday in Austin.
Hi there, everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Good Wednesday morning to you. It's going to be a hot one again, especially through the Pacific Northwest, with the axis of the heat moving from the I-5 corridor and moving into eastern Washington and Oregon. 105 today out of Boise, Idaho. So very hot as you head into the interior of the Intermountain West as well. 110 out of Phoenix with some mugginess there, a chance for thunderstorms being the next weather maker as that monsoonal moisture breaks out again. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, we have all dealt with computer problems, but what happens when your local meteorologist has computer issues? They get creative. Let's take a look at a recent forecast from meteorologist Jeff Exline after he lost access to his weather graphics.
Now, what we can do is sort of give you the weather with puppets. Have to improvise a little bit. So I've got to break out the weather puppet. So we're starting the day with clouds. As you can see, lots of clouds in the sky. And what will happen today is these clouds will gradually break apart a little bit. Later this morning, this afternoon, we'll start to see a little bit more sun. But sunshine this time of year will cause more clouds to bubble up, and eventually they'll get tall enough and they will leak a little bit of rain. So we're going to have a few rain showers later this afternoon into this evening. These guys are going to be scattered about. It's not going to be like yesterday. Yesterday, of course, we saw a steady rain in the afternoon and evening hours. Today, one puppet I didn't use and I don't plan on using anytime soon is Susie the snowflake. We'll have to break her out come November or December. Until then, bye-bye, Susie.
How adorable. We'd love to connect with you. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been a soggy summer for southern New England, and tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at how all that rain is affecting the local mushroom season. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Wednesday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.